Welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast, the podcast that explores the strategies, systems, and stories that drive salon success. I'm Alicia, founder and CEO of Salons.
And I'm Whitney, head of sales here at Salons.
And welcome to the Parts and Labor Podcast. Every time. Action.
Hi, welcome back to the Parts plus Labor podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Whitney.
And I'm Alicia.
And today we're going to be talking about technology in the salon space. So how it helps to create consistent experience for the guest and what it can do for the salon.
So much to talk about. As honestly, anything tech now, because it's, going from former salon owner, those, that have known my story, to now a tech founder, and then falling in love with technology. Like I did the massive trust fall into technology. And from there, everything changed around me, not just my business, but just me as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, as a CEO, like learning how to leverage those things to make my business better was the best thing I ever did. And so I think that, the whole conversation today is how do we as a industry, as a salon industry, do a massive trust fall into technology? How do we trust it more? And, what are ways that it can help truly optimize the business, make it better, let you live that optimum life that you really want to live as a salon owner?
Well, no kidding. I mean, even think, and you might be watching this and thinking oh, no, I'm not techie. Technology is not for me. But even just think back 10 years ago, or even since post 2020, the landscape for everything has changed. And even if you might think you're not techie, it has crept into our lives so much. Even think of when you first started Salon Scale, trying to market that. You were door knocking, going into salons. You were setting up booths at shows, and the only way you could really connect with a large amount of people is face to face, when you saw them. But now, we have social media, and we have this podcast, and we're using it in different ways to connect to a large group of people. And the same with the salon industry. I mean, imagine, with Instagram, the marketing that you can do from really tailoring your Instagram and getting clients from that. Whenever I go to a new stylist, I choose them by their Instagram. I scroll and see, okay, do they have about a color that I want to achieve? And so, even if you think that you aren't techie, imagine where you wouldn't be right now if we didn't have those kind of tools, and imagine where you can be if you embrace more of it.
Yeah. And I think the one thing also to know is consumer trends and behaviors and how that changes with technology. So the average customer that comes to a salon, a lot of times when they're doing other booking services or going to other experiences, whether they're going to a restaurant, they're going to a hotel, they're used to using OpenTable or used to using Airbnb or some type of other technology that they're used to living in a time where the technology is a lot more, hands-on. They don't have as much human help. They have a lot more technical kind of solutions that are there, and they're used to it. Mm-hmm. So I think buying into the oh, well, you have to call in, that's how it is, because the customers just like to call us. It's you're kind of subscribing to a pretty archaic time. And not that it's wrong or anything, but you will get left behind. And to optimize these and having your company run itself, the best way to let it run itself without having to pay for a ton of human help is to use technology that is at a very, very small fraction of the price to be able to help leverage a lot of those opportunities that you might be missing out on. Yeah. So I find that salons are very, very good revenue drivers. They're very good at marketing. They're very good at using these tools right now to promote themselves. And quite frankly, I think the salon industry is probably the highest engaged community when it comes to attracting free organic traffic. That is a very hard thing to do in other businesses, but salons have no problem with that because you're, posting your work and you're driving traffic, and it's a good way to bring them in. But it's from that lead or from that customer that interacts with you on a social page is how fast can they get booked in with you? How fast can they learn more about what your service prices are, what they can expect, where you're located, what times you're open, how optimized are you on that? Because that's where you'll get that kind of drop in a customer. That's where you get where they can't figure out what it's going to cost to come see you or how to get engaged with you in the first 10 minutes. They'll find someone else.
That's 100% true. I know that because I'm getting my hair done tomorrow, and I was just looking at some places in the city here, and I went on a bunch of different websites. I had a few that I wanted to try, kind of new places, and I ran into that a ton. I couldn't see there's no pricing menu, or you have to call in to book, or there's a lot of, so I just went to a place I had gone before where I could very clearly see all the information and book online.
Yeah. And like, that is why customers also will DM you and be like, can I get in on Friday? Because of how hard it is to figure out how to navigate that way. They would gladly not want to interrupt you and gladly go through that. So like, this in technology is what we call like a customer's journey. Like what is their journey on a technical landscape? Like, how do they get to the website? How are you attracting them? Where do they go? And so like one like little bit of advice, and something I've actually done recently with Salon Scale is like, just map it out. Like try to like, where are you trying to attract customers? Like, are you at events? Are you posting ads? Are you just organically all your staff, and what handles are they all using? Are they all individual, or is it a salon account? Like all that stuff, where does it go? Is it all being driven to a website? Okay, so if it comes to the website, like how fast, like what is the goal? Is the goal to get them booked? Okay, so then like the booking calendar link should be like the first thing right there. Like the very first thing in the header is like book now, because that's likely what all this traffic you want them to do. And then from there, it's like how fast, when they go through that in whatever booking software you use, like how hard is it to book? How easy is it for a customer to understand what your menu is? If your menu is like, by hour, is that easy for them to understand how to book? If it's by menu, do they know what the difference of a balayage to a full head of color is to like a partial to what we explain it as? Or is it like, confusing? And I can't imagine calling the dentist and be like, hey, my L7s and my, R10s need, work. So let's book that in. Like,
Right.
You don't speak the same language. So like, that's the things you have to ask is like, is this why we're having to rely back on more human touch, right, to make that happen? And I think that like, if you break those little things down and just test it out and try to figure out how to like make it a little bit faster and easier, you're going to save so much more time and money. Because not only are you going to not be answering DMs at like 10 o'clock at night and trying to book people in, or as a salon owner, you might be getting messages from, new customers or customers of some of your staff. It just like takes a lot of that time away and keeps it, a lot more off your mind, and knowing that there's a source for them to kind of go through. And then, so you save your own time and then money, having someone to be there to always answer a phone, to do all that stuff, like that costs a lot of money. So, you can really eliminate a lot of that by having technology to serve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's as far as getting clients through the door. But the same thing applies for running the business and when they're in the business and the kind of experience that you're giving them. If you're relying on still writing things down, or, just kind of making up prices on the fly, emotional discounting. It's kind of a different price each time based on whether the stylist added those extra bowls or not. It's the same kind of thing. And embracing technology, now that we have technology for actually in the salon, embracing that is going to help just streamline things as well. And you can be opposed to technology. I mean, that's kind of me. Like I don't like change. I have this thought of like the olden days when times were good and we rode our bikes everywhere and like there was no cell phones and everything. And now I'm on mine all the time, just like everybody else. But so you can be adverse to it, but those who embrace it are going to start to go like this. And those who put their foot down, they'll plateau, or they'll grow at a much slower rate versus those who just dive in and say, I'm going to use this to help me with my business.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's also critical as a salon owner. It's also imperative that like you're probably employing like quite young individuals. Like this is their first job, their first career. Like they're usually, 19, 20, 21, they're coming in and it's the first job. So you're not only teaching them how to teach rapport with customers, how to service customers, the service-based side, but there's processes and how to, understand how, things operate. Now, it's planting the seeds in the next generation. So like the whole goal is to try and, maintain a relationship with your staff to be there as long and give them a full life career. But statistically, that's not likely the case. A lot of the times what we see is, stylists do, after that 10, 15-year career span, they just can't simply work behind the chair anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the next evolution? So if you have processes and you have that in place, there's a chance that they can now take on building more of that stuff with you. And or again, you're doing your part to train them to be accustomed to what will happen when they get into other parts of their career, other stages of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
right? I remember this from like my very first job, learning first process and learning like the way that things operate. And it was like, I took it with me today, and that's how I built in processes and developed all these procedures within any of my companies because of my very first job that like really wanted me to know critically that you need to have these things in place to have something sustainable or successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's really important, is because those stylists are either going to go on and build their own companies, or they're going to go on and work in other, probably larger organizations, or go back into other positions. And so like it's doing your part to make sure that they have that initial start, and they will always remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will always remember the beginning. They will always remember that, that seed that you planted in them. And again, you do your part building a much better sustainable ecosystem for everyone. And then it just, overall, we're going to build a lot more respect this way and have a lot more sustainable salons because, we have a lot more of these things in place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even just with salon scale, exposing your stylist to the cost of goods, the true cost of what it takes to run the business, the true cost of every bowl mix, the true cost of waste that's going down the drain, exposing them to that, and that, some of that has to be paid for. And again, the true cost of running the salon is a gift. Like whether they, use it within their current salon or go on to open their own, just showing that it's not, if you charge $200 for a service, the salon isn't making half of that. There's a lot that has to come out. And just, again, like the ability to streamline the work, to make everybody's day easier and faster, and then to have like real-time data is just, it's invaluable. It's hard to imagine that not that long ago businesses were ran without that, or are still being ran without that.
Oh, majority of them are.
Yeah.
And we still have lots of pen and paper businesses, like a lot of the times, because it's just, I always say like our direct competitor is pen and paper. Like that's like our direct competitor. There's other competitors out there, but like sometimes it's faster. It's like, well, we just have a chart in the back, and this is just like what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we think that's easier, but like, is it stored? Is it logged? Can it service in the future? Is there anything collected on it that can make us smarter, more efficient, more, transparent to scale ourselves past like this one operation kind of situation?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I want to stay like this forever, or do I want to actually like lean into being like the CEO of my salon and maybe have multiple salons, maybe get to a point where I'm just like owning and operating the businesses versus like being in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like that comes to like the marriage between like technology and salons, is salon owners, are so busy in their business that they're not working on their business.
Mm-hmm.
And so the technology will help you work on your business versus in your business. You can't do shit in your business if you're stuck in it.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind cannot, like, it's like if you imagined flying above and looking down at the forest and finding the most efficient path, and then constantly having to scoop down and then walk the path with people and be like, oh, we'll do this and we'll do this, and then go back up, like how exhausted, like that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, how do you get yourself to elevate yourself to a place where, you're helping drive everybody to their goals, and, to help encourage using technology, using data to say, it's like, hey, you know what, you're walking at this pace, here's this great, if you want to really hit that next, that next milestone or hit that next thing, I can see based off what's going on, like you only have to service this many more customers, or you only have to increase a transaction by $10 more. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you think you want to hit that goal? Like, yeah, okay, great, awesome, let's get that for you. You're now sitting in a position where you're really leading things to the bird's eye view of what you want. And every time you dip down to where you think it's comfortable, growth is not there. Growth comes at the edge of your comfort zone, and growth comes in those moments of evolution. You don't know really what you're doing in that zone, like it's uncomfortable. Like no one knows the exact perfect strategy. They may have a vision, but it's like living in that uncomfortability and just trusting like, okay, like I'm like, this is my role. This is how I'm going to do everything. That's really going to get you out there. And so I just encourage people to like, stay up there. It's important, and you'll challenge yourself a lot more. You'll gain a lot more respect with your teams. But what you'll ultimately do is you'll buy yourself, a position to have that financial freedom and that ability to like have what you actually wanted versus, sitting back and having that resentment or having that moment where you stalled out. Now you can't fly. You've lost your wings. You've lost your wings. You lost everything, and now you can't see. And now you're stuck, and now you're stalled out, and you have to decide if this is the end for you. That's not where you want to go.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I mean, technology will, definitely give you that time back, but also, again, and then scale. I like how you brought up being able to scale, because working in your business, trying to grow it, trying to maybe open like another salon while you're still physically doing that same job, also running the salon, also doing all the numbers, there's only so much time in the day. And that's where technology is incredibly helpful. And then giving you that real-time data. So not having to go write anything down after, because afterwards, when your client's gone, the ability to capture any like missed profit is also gone. And that mistake is going to carry over next time they come in. You can't say, hey, by the way, we undercharged you $25 last time. We just realized it kind of when you left. Like, that's gone. And so knowing that in real time and using technology to really make sure like every single service is absolutely optimized, that's going to allow you to scale. Like that's you can have said it before, but you can have this perfect pricing model. But if it's not being, and you can, really like do all your numbers, lay it all out there, find the perfect amount to include in the service, find the perfect amount to charge for an extra bowl. But then if at the end of the day, well, you allotted for 40 grams and 60 grams was mixed, or they used 2 extra bowls, but only 1 was charged. Like none of it means anything. None of it means anything. Your pricing model means absolutely nothing if it's not being followed exactly. And with the thin profit margin in a salon, can't afford that. And so that's where technology really keeps everybody, not held accountable. That sounds like a punishment. I don't mean that, but just you can see everything.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I think that the way to keep that momentum, like we, just talked about, like, sailing into looking above, is you need real-time information. You need information that's not necessarily just like spoken to you. Like, we feel this, like if you have staff that's like, oh, like customers are having this problem, or this is happening, or we're out of the stock, whatever. Like that's word of mouth. That's like like there's qualitative and quantitative data that can come in. So qualitative is that real time, what the people are experiencing. So you can get like quality information of like what's experienced in that. And then there's quantitative, which is like measurable results. So being able to have both of those is like the way that you can kind of scale it out. And so I think that like, the one thing is like, it's in the word scale. Like you can't scale anything. A scale is a unit of measurement. Like you can't, like if you put something on a scale, like you get a unit of measurement. If you are trying to scale your business, you need to understand the metrics in the business that scale it, or the foundation needed to scale it. Like that's the whole premise of scaling yourself or scaling out, is really understand the foundation. It's not a gut instinct. It's not like like an emotional, like, I feel like we should just go and charge everybody $10 more. Like that's not a strategic kind of scaling your business. Like really, I think what it is just like understanding like what is all the economics of the business, like from customers coming in to like us servicing them down to every service. Like, am I capturing like the profit target that I need? And then from that, I'm able to now put together like a strong, kind of sense of like what I want to budget for the next like year, what I want to invest in, what do I want to grow? Do I want to grow more customer count, or do I want to grow more profit? In order to do that, like, do I understand all these things to do it? And I think that like sometimes we get scared as salon owners because what I'm saying, like this language scares people. Sometimes it's like, well, that's like too much. Like I'm a hairstylist that turned salon owner, and like that's what I do well. So I'm nervous to step into it. Well, I'm here to like also say, whoever's listening, like I was the same thing. So like if I can do it, I feel like everyone can. It's like leaning into that uncomfortability and start to really understand what those are. It will change your business. And trusting the technology, it's like trusting these things. I think like the one thing is like, we talk, what you had just mentioned about, the transition of understanding, like when the customers come in, what's the point then? So again, we started this whole podcast about, that salons are very good at generating revenue, getting customers come in, creating that awareness, maybe optimizing a bit to make it faster for them to get into the chairs. Then you kind of brought up, once they're in there, then like what technology can you use to like help optimize that? So those are those things. Those are the back bar management softwares, Salon Scale, using, financial models, parts and labor, which we're heavily talk about. Like, how do you make sure you use and leverage all this knowledge and tools to be able to optimize all that stuff? Because the goal of when a customer comes in is not to give them the greatest service that day. It's for them to be a repeat buyer. So you don't have to reacquire them. You don't have to work really hard and keep putting a lot of money in to like constantly like drive more people in. It's like once they're in, it's that's the lowest hanging fruit in your business is like keep them happy, keep them sustainable, keep them coming back. That gives you what we would call like a reoccurring revenue. And if you can not just drive revenue, but make revenue reoccur, every quarter it reoccurs and then you're just adding to it, like you are going to build a massive business that will truly scale. So there is, a lot that technology can help there because it'll give you those facts and those numbers to say like, are we hitting those targets? Like, where do we need to lean into? Do we need to lean into driving more leads in or more customers in because those are down? Or are we not making money off these services? Like, where's the leaks in the business? The only thing to do that is by measuring it using technology to do it. You can't write this down anymore. It can't be just on a spreadsheet that you might have put together and like you forgot to update and then you have to go back and do that. Like you can't rely on like a lot of others to do it. You have to build this in where it's measurable and it holds the information so that you can be able to make the decisions you need to drive.
That's a really good point. I think that, a lot of salon owners that I talk to, they start out and they say, I went to beauty school. I didn't go to business school. We were taught nothing at business school. So even hearing you say like, you raise your price by $10 every year, but what metric are you actually trying to drive? Like, are you wanting more customers? Are you wanting more revenue? Is that going to do it? You have to factor in inflation. You have to factor in, all the rising costs of everything else to make sure that what you're actually doing is going to give you the result that you want. And I think that that's not thought about that often. It's a $10 blanket seems to be able to stay on top of those things, but it's like, but where do you actually want to grow? And that's where, again, technology helps. Somebody who is an expert in that area and that can do that so that you can focus on more of, the things, the day-to-day of running the business, using technology really to your advantage in that area and helping you optimize those things and really helping you scale is the beautiful part about it. If you really embrace it, like it can do incredible things for your business. And if you don't, again, I just think that those who embrace it and take it in are going to grow much faster than those who wait.
Oh, absolutely. I think knowledge is power. Technology is moving at a rapid rate. We all know, we won't like get into that heavy, but like we all know that the world of AI is here. And so like, again, like what was going at a 10x rate is now going at like 1,000x rate. And, you have an opportunity to leverage this technology to be able to like really optimize your business. Like you do not have the cash flow to support like an entire marketing agency. You don't have the cash flow to support like a full-time HR or like an accountant. Like you can only meet them like once a year on your year ends, right? Like, whereas using technology, like a lot of these things can be leveraged to actually work for you. And it just takes kind of being very curious. The first part to start is being curious. Don't be hard on yourself. You're not going to know everything, but like develop like a 1 or 10% mindset. Like, I'm going to learn 1% every day, and then I'm going to get 1% better every day at it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I only need to know 10% of this software. I only need to like adopt like 10% of this to know it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need really 100% of all the features and all the things to find success? Or like, what is the smallest slice to find your success? And then you can learn the rest as it goes. Like, sometimes you don't need the full platform. That's what we say at Salon Scale. We can optimize many things. We can help you with inventory, orders, like making so much more data decisions in your business using the technology. But maybe, the 10% is just by weighing. Like, the first part is just tracking the color.
Seeing your cost.
That's it. Cost of goods calculator. Start there. Get the 10% down. And that 10% will buy you enough to be able to like have trust for the technology, but then be able to invest, more time to be able to learn the other things that you're, adopting at the time. But that's the whole thing about technology, is just to just jump in. Again, do the trust fall, jump into it, and find ways to scale you outside that business. It's like you started this business so that it paid you in dividends. Like, this isn't a hobby. This is your business. The one thing that pains me when I think of salon owners out there is the ones that like are losing out of time on their families, the stress that's around them. They go home, everybody else thinks everything's great, and they're sitting there, living, a delusional mind, and like they're sitting there alone, and they're stressed out, and they were at their highest game. They were huge stylists that were actually generating a lot of revenue for themselves individually, and the moment they said, I'm going to open something and share that, they are sitting in this like loss. And to get through it, they now have to like learn about technology. They have to learn about business. They have to learn about things that weren't necessarily fueled from their passion. Now they're kind of forced into it. And so I think my whole goal is, as someone who builds technology now and software for salons, is let's make it as simple as possible so we can have that trust. Let's start at trust, so you can get back to doing what you love, and let's let the technology like take care of the rest.
I want to bring up a quote that you told me a long time ago at this point, but I think you said it was one of the sharks that said they would never invest, like the one industry that they would never invest in is the salon industry. And I think if it made easy millionaires, everybody would do it. It wouldn't be the salon owners that are like actual stylists that create salons. It would be people from Wall Street, right? If it were easy and quick money, everybody would do it. So why do you think he said that? And how does that get changed?
Well, I think like when we think of a sector like the salon industry, this is a service-based industry. I think salons and restaurants are exactly the same. Extremely high turnover on your staff. So like it's really hard to build a team that can scale you to the next level. Cash flow is very unpredictable. So you have like a lot more transactions happening daily, but they're micro transactions. And then you have like, when you look at the cost of goods, you look at those variable costs, like they fluctuate a lot. So it's hard to stay on top of that. And then those supplies, they go up out of your control. So it's like, you're always trying to do that with, as well, keeping in mind, you're trying to keep yourself priced right in the market. So you're really in this triangle of like really struggling to keep all these like kind of pillars going on in your business. So it is really hard to really get those things kind of going. And then, when we look at it as like that, if you look at output versus input, most really good investors like think of like, if I'm going to buy something, it's like the least amount of output for the highest amount of, like, or least amount of input for the highest amount of output. Like that's what we want to see. But with salons, we still like, I think what we see is there's just so many inconsistencies when it comes to like how we price. This salon does this one does this. There's still a lot of like inconsistency on like the model, the actual model of the business, that it's really hard for investors to kind of get behind, to say like, oh, this is like a in the box like business, here we go. If salons were able to have like, okay, here's the brand, this salon only does bob haircuts, like we just do bobs, we're the best at doing bobs. Well, am I in a market that can like service 1,000 bob haircuts a month? Maybe if I was in a high,
Depends on the year.
maybe if I was in like, a high, a high New York or something where you could be very, very niche on that, then it's like easy. Then you train a stylist to do just that one look. And they just do that over, and you have a menu of all the different kind of bobs and lobs. And like maybe the salon's called Bobs and Lobs, right? Like this is an investable business
light bulb just went off.
because it's like very cookie cutter, very easy. Just do this one thing over and over. You can control those costs. You don't have everything. So it's very easy. It's like a shoe in. Mm-hmm. So that's where you have those blow up bars that are more investable because it's the same looks. Like it's the same. It's like teach this, go this way. Salons are a lot more customized. They're tailored to the stylist. Like the reality is the salons don't own the $42 billion consumer relationship. The stylists own that with their customer. That's why. Because it's all variable. It's up to like how they are as individuals in the business. And that whole kind of change is, it would be like going to a restaurant and having 7 chefs in the restaurant and 8 different menus. That's why salons are very, very hard to scale and invest in. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you see a lot of, people being hesitant on doing that type of investment in salons.
And I want to talk about kind of one last thing to maybe wrap it up. But you touched on the lowest hanging fruit is repeatable customers, repeat business, so you don't have to pay to acquire them again. And I think technology there is incredible as well because you're able to give them that consistent experience. And imagine, going into a salon and your stylist is using technology customized to just you. And I want to specifically pull up a story that I met with a salon owner the other day, Lori. Shout out Lori. And I said, what would you say to, a salon owner who doesn't want to charge parts plus labor, who thinks that this is a luxury service and that it should be package pricing, cost of goods is part of doing the business. And I loved her answer because what she said specifically, I think was so true. She said, and it just rolled right off her tongue. She said, I think that having a custom price based on their custom formula and put in technology is far more luxurious than a package price.
Love that.
Yeah. And true. If somebody pulls up your formula and your picture of last time that you were in and has your exact formula, okay, do you want to do this again today? Yep. Okay, wonderful. And then can just go from there. That's a lot more luxurious than flipping through, recipe cards.
Well, I also think if you go and buy a luxury vehicle, and you get the itemized receipt, does it just say one price? No, it breaks down what's all involved in it. There's things involved in it. So all you're doing is itemizing what's involved in that price point. I would say the funny thing too is pricing is personal in this industry. We make it very personal because, a lot of it's us performing something and then we have to, it's a very it taps into ego and insecurities and it's a feeling based kind of situation. But if you can take facts, you can back that out. Mm-hmm. And the facts will cut through the emotion, which will make you just stop taking your business and making the personal pricing decisions. And then you have a choice. You either can continue to personally make pricing personal, or you can make pricing professional. So it's depending on where you want to sit. So I find that the customers that really adopt these mindsets that we've, really helped contribute to letting them understand as all the facts they needed, they move into a professional pricing mindset. Our business, our financial model is a parts and labor business. We only charge you for the parts that's used. The time is based off the value of the stylist, their experience level. And then really, our overhead is all factored into that situation. So you're not paying any more. You're paying for the exact value in that session. That's how we charge in our salon. Mm-hmm. It's professional. If I would say, oh yeah, you can pick the brunette series or the this session or whatever, it sounds nice. You're marketing it. It's, oh yeah, I want to have the bombshell or I want to have the bombshell card or whatever menu item, wrapping it all together. But what is that attracted them from the marketing side? But when it came to what does that mean to a customer, it really, doesn't break down the value of it. So it's okay to display value professionally. to get to the cost of this vehicle, to get to the cost of that service, this is how much it takes for time. This is the value of that. And here's the cost involved to make that happen. And packaged together is the price. Like it's the best way to communicate. And it just will cut through all of that. So I do think that, moving into a professional pricing mindset is a must. Like, drop the personal attachment, and you'll know. If you hear about parts, and like I find people like kind of get a little like, well, I don't like that. Like, I like to just be hourly. I like to do this, or I like to make sure that the customer sees it one way. Ask yourself, am I coming from a place of feeling right now or fact? Just say that. Am I basing this assumption off feelings or facts? So if you realize it and you back and you realize that like, oh, I'm actually feeling for my customers or what they would feel about seeing this price, that's not how you make a financial or a business strategy. Like, businesses are not based off like feelings. They're based off facts. And so like, get to the facts. What does it cost you to run the business? What would you need? And then build that value and sell the value. Sell the value every time. This is our value. And you will win, and you'll scale yourself out of having any of those mindsets and like getting trapped in the like feeling bad for charging, what the business needed to charge for those services.
Yep. I think that's a good mic drop spot to end right there. So I think that, yeah, we've kind of talked about this, specific topic enough, and we can probably wrap up for today, but I don't know what to say from here. So you talk.
I feel like, you know what, there's so much more coming your way. And yeah, stay tuned for our next episode. We'll be back next week with so much more.